Warm welcome to the WorldCoin Talk community. I'm Glenn, your host. Today we have joining us Derek and Barry, the co-founders of Solalgo. And yeah, we'll be delving into the Solalgo project shortly. But first, guys, before we start, can you introduce yourselves and tell us about your journey so far in the crypto industry?
Sure. My name's Barry. I'm one of the co-founders, as you said, Glenn, of Solalgo. I think you'll see on video that Derek and I are not exactly your archetypal entrepreneurs in the crypto industry. We're a little bit older, been around the block a few times, and this is our first foray into cryptocurrency as a project. My background over the last 20 years has been online gaming, sportsbook, and casinos. Up until about 3 years ago when we started the actual Solalgo project. Now, that doesn't say I've got quite a bit of experience in cryptocurrency. I have, because around 2013, a lot of our bigger sportsbook players from far afield started wanting to deposit in this thing called BTC, and I hadn't heard anything about this BTC. Well, I've heard of it, but wanting to find out a little bit more. And we started taking quite vast sums of money as BTC deposits for our sports bettors. And since that point, I've been an investor. I've been a hodler. I've been many things in the crypto industry, and I've just really enjoyed the journey and completely submerged myself in the technology and understanding everything that's going on since 2013 right until the present day. So that's my background.
My background is purely financial and mostly attached to the London Stock Exchange. Started out in the mid-80s writing tip sheets on behalf of various different companies in the stock exchange, various different broking houses. Became attached to a broking house as a trader. I went on to become an analyst for, I think it was 2 banks and 3 brokers was to start with. Did an awful lot of analytical work for about 2 years, then was a trader as well as a broker, and then became a promoter. And a promoter basically takes new companies that are looking to list on the exchanges and doing the prospectus for them, meeting with them, doing the distribution for them, putting together any underwriting that's necessary for them. And I brought about 40 companies to either London or New York on the secondary match markets since I started doing that. I don't have a huge background in cryptocurrency. Around 2010, 2012, like a lot of people in my business, we looked at cryptocurrency when it started to raise its head. And we dismissed it. We dismissed it as a fad. When it came to lockdown, right, I had a bit of time on my hands and I was interested in the growth of cryptocurrency. So I looked at it with a purely analytical hat on, as opposed to a trading hat on. And when I looked at it, I became fascinated by it. I became fascinated by the concept and the potential and possibility for it. However, the analytical side of me looked at the companies that were, or businesses or projects that were being traded, and an enormous amount of them seemed to be paper tigers, seemed to have no tangible assets, seemed to have no basis other than an idea, right? And the idea wasn't always fundamental. It was always more conceptual than anything else. However, it was a rampant market. So as I said, I looked at it very carefully. When I did decide to make something of it, I came up with the idea of marrying the traditional to the forward-thinking way of financial trading, which I believe is going to be blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. However, as I said, I didn't know enough about cryptocurrency, so I rang a guy who did, and that was Barry. And that was back in 2019, the end of 2019, that we started doing this. And since then, we have built Solalgo, which is basically a traditional business, the building of a traditional conglomerate. It already has 6 projects that it owns and 2 further that it has under negotiated agreement. And Barry has looked after the crypto side, so he's the guy that's going to answer all the questions on the crypto side. But effectively what we're doing is we're looking at crypto as a currency, our own issued token, Solalgo, SOGO, as our bank. And using that, we're going to trade it on the exchanges for fiat. We're going to buy more companies to a point of about 30 plus companies. And ultimately, we have the end game, which is listing it all on either London or New York as a standard stock market company. Barry has pitches and ways in which to tell you that a lot better than I have. But that's who I am, and that's where I'm from.
Okay, thank you very much, Derek and Barry, for the introduction. So yeah, maybe we can start with an introduction for the Solalgo project. Like you say, you've got real-world businesses tying them in with crypto. We can maybe go into them shortly. We've got Buds, Vetsecure, and Modus Pay. They're the ones I saw on the white paper. But give us an introduction to the Intelligent Digital Investment Bank project that you're making here with Solalgo.
Sure. Yeah. So, if anyone, obviously, I'm sure a lot of your members within the community are always told to do their own research, and I would suggest they do the same, because this is not a standard meme coin or some other project. This project can be viewed upon as being quite, should we say, convoluted, but it actually isn't. It's a very straightforward project in terms of what the steps that we go through to be able to present token holders value, which is obviously the most important thing, we believe, in creating a successful project in cryptocurrency. So as Derek said, we basically have come up with this kind of 5-step plan where we sell the SLGO tokens to raise acquisition funding. Now, what we have done up to this point is we raised quite a lot of money through our seed and private rounds, which obviously we've utilized in purchasing the businesses we have already, which obviously Derek will go into detail over, because that's his side of the business. Now, when we, with those raised funds, we've actually created an algorithm which goes out and finds the suitable businesses to acquire in terms of value and understanding what's going to provide us the maximum bang for our buck when it comes to step 3, which is actually giving us businesses that provide Solalgo profits and dividends. Now, the real exciting thing about Solalgo and its project is that all of the profits and dividends that are acquired from these businesses are used to go into the open market, onto exchanges, PancakeSwap, etc., and buy up Solalgo tokens. Now, obviously, I'm sure anyone will understand that will create a huge amount of buy pressure and upward mobility on our token price, which is great. Now, stage 4, which is our burn process, which is, I think, extremely bullish as well, is that we go out and buy these tokens, and once we have these tokens, we burn them. Now, the idea over the next, we're projecting 3.5 years, etc. That in that time, 70% of all of our tokens will be burned, reducing the supply down to 30%. So obviously, all of that cycle, creating profits and dividends, selling, buying Solalgo tokens, and then burning them, creates this kind of deflationary virtuous circle, which again we think extremely unique in this marketplace. And as Derek alluded to, once we reach that 70% burn ratio, which is our maximum burn, we will be listing that conglomerate of businesses onto a major stock exchange.
Okay, I see, Barry. And I was wondering, for investors, is it all going on the burn, or will there be some revenue share if you're holding the token?
No, it's
well,
not.
there is.
Sorry, Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'll say there is a 3% tax. So the tax is split up on 3% on buy and 3% sell. There's a 1% reward tax for hodlers. There's 1% for marketing, and 1% goes into liquidity. So that's the way. Obviously, our main aim is to keep driving up the price of Solalgo going forward. But as I say, there is a 3% tax buy and sell.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Like you say, with a 70% burn, that should increase the price over.
You would hope so, Glenn. You would hope so.
Did you say in the tax, does 1%, is that paid like in one of the stable coins? Or?
No, look, I think it's in. I think that goes back in BNB. In our that's our pair.
I see. And maybe as we're talking about the token, we can start with the tokenomics. What's the breakdown? You've had the private sale there, and the next page. We've got it in there, main chat, if anyone wants to look as the pre-sale.
So the pre-sale, we're actually going for only a very small raise because our plan, as I say, we were quite lucky through our own network of high net worth individuals, through myself and Derek. We raised quite a nice amount in the seed round, and then going forward in the private round. Pre-sales 100 soft cap, 200 hard cap BNB. That's going to be on Cookie Sale, and that's coming up on Thursday. Is it Thursday? Yeah, Thursday. No, Wednesday. Sorry, Wednesday. It's Sunday today. So yeah, that's the Wednesday on Cookie Sale. The list price is 4 cents. There's a 20% discount for the pre-salers. I believe we're giving out some whitelists for your community today as well, which is great. And I would suggest that anyone have a quick look. All of the tokenomics are on our webpage, breaking down of vesting, but the real important ones are that the larger token holders, our seed investors, etc., are all vested for 2 years. So there'll be no dumping of tokens. The private round, they're vested over 10 months with a 10% release every month. The pre-sale, there's no vesting on it, so you can come in and trade at your leisure. And there's some other smaller holders. Again, I would say 99.8% of all tokens are vested for quite some time. So we have tried to put in as many safety valves for anyone coming into looking at Solalgo to give them some level of transparency and safety.
Great, Barry. Before we go into the businesses that you've acquired, let's go into Algos 101. Is it artificial intelligence built into the algorithms? How does it work? I think it's sort of copyrighted, so you can't maybe explain everything about it, but how does it work? How does it pick these businesses, and is it learning all the time with artificial intelligence to improve for the future?
Okay, I'll take this one, Barry. Is that okay? Yeah. Basically, when we went to profile the business, how we would actually structure, build, and roll out the business, we looked at it in very traditional terms. Right? So we were building a conglomerate. Part of building a conglomerate, obviously, is acquiring projects, acquiring current businesses, acquiring businesses that are in trouble, acquiring businesses that are successful. In order to make any acquisition at this level, traditionally, you would perform what's called due diligence. Due diligence can take a lot of time in order to make sure that you're actually doing it correctly. Right? When I work in the stock exchange, I have teams of up to 20, 30 people performing the due diligence at all levels for me, part of which is to comply with the due diligence that's expected of you from the stock exchange itself, part of which is to ensure that you're getting value for money, you're getting bang for your buck. We didn't really have the resources, and I didn't like the amount of time it was going to take, right? So I said to Barry, look, we're going to have to find some sort of a technological way in which we can assess these businesses that we're going to buy. And that was the initial idea behind ALGOS 101. What happened since, right, is that the idea of the algorithm finding the business, it doesn't find the businesses. What it does is, effectively, it's a search and rank tool, but it's a hugely sophisticated search and rank tool that performs other functions as well as search and rank. When somebody approaches us to buy a business, and we get approached to buy businesses and projects and take on board invested interests in everything from A to Z, but when somebody approaches us, there are a number of processes that they have to go through. The first process that they go through on an outside approach would be to answer an initial 10 questions, which assesses as to whether we would be interested in the business or not. Once those 10 questions are answered and we have an interest in it, then the project itself is examined. It's examined initially by the algorithm. When I say examined, the algorithm looks at the sector that the business is in. It looks at the current situation with respect to the sector and the historical situation with respect to the sector. It then looks at the business itself, right? It looks at the potential of the businesses, where it will fit into the market, how it will fit into the market, what is the legal aspect to it, what is the accounting aspect to it, What is the taxation aspect to it, the logistic aspect, etc., etc., etc. Now, as I said in the past, this could take weeks, if not months. The algorithm does all of this in about 3 hours once we feed the information in. And that's based on building an algorithm that asks multiple questions, the same way you would do if you were doing due diligence as a traditional value. And those questions are answered and formatted into a returned reply that allows us to assess the business through various different pieces of expertise on a human level. My team comprises of five primary experts in various different areas of standard business operation. If we have reached that stage and the business is something that we're really interested in, we then ask the algorithm to provide us with a 3-year projection, 3-year business plan with illustrative financial projections based on the values of the market and the values of the product involved. It does that, and then it performs an operational schedule and a HR indicator as to what's going to be needed. At that point, if it's still meeting the criteria of why we want to buy it, i.e. it's going to be profitable, then we make an offer for it. But the algorithm also advises us what we should be offering. Right? Now, we don't always take the advice on what should be offered because that's a case of negotiation with the project owner or the business owner. But we do listen to the algorithm, and we do use the algorithm as a reporting tool to allow our experts to be quick and efficient in making a decision on acquisition. This takes out a lot of the pain out of it, and it allows us to build a conglomerate much quicker than we would do should we be using just traditional methods. It's also a whole lot cheaper than using human resources for what you would call the donkey work. So that's what the algorithm does, and that's what it is. It is entirely owned by us. It is proprietary to us. And while there are plenty of other things that are search and ranked, not at the level of search and rank for this particular job, nothing even close.
I see, Derek. And then, so once the algorithm's narrowed down, the companies, does the team get involved then and delve in deeper?
Yeah, basically the team gets involved from the start because the first 10 questions that are asked are fairly searching questions. I'm not saying they're trick questions, but they do allow us to make a quick assessment as to whether we should bother by feeding this into the algorithm. And then once it goes into the algorithm on the first stage, it really is a sector analysis, right? Do we want to be involved in this sector? Are we already in this sector? Is there crossover in this sector? Can we apply what resources we've already got to this sector? Once those questions are answered, then we look in detail at the project itself, including any histories with regard to its operations, our trading, or any histories with regard to the people that have been involved in it. Any backgrounds that may or may not be missed in the first open exposure to the project. Once that's done, then we have a decision to make. We set the parameters that the algorithm must advise us that it must have an 85% chance based on the information that we have of achieving profits within 3 years. And then it's a question of the levels of profits and the costs attached to them. All of this is done, as I said, by my team of 5 and the algorithm. The algorithm provides us with a huge amount of information compressed and compendium into something that's readable, easy accessible, and reliable.
Okay, great, Derek. And let's go into the three businesses that I saw on the white paper that you've acquired by the Solalgo group. I'm wondering as well, in the future, would you take a percentage share in companies, or is it always going to be you want to be fully owned? The three you've got here, I think you're fully owned, do you?
Now, all the businesses that we buy and will buy in the future will be wholly owned 100% by Solalgo. This allows us complete control and maximum return, right, on what is basically our investment. The businesses that we bought and are operational and are developed now are in the first instance. When we first got the algorithm working, we did a test. We tested 970 something applications for people looking to sell us their project or their business or even their idea. And of those 970 odd, we selected 3. The first one was a business called Bloodscore. And what it is it's a production and distribution marijuana company. And it starts off, there's 2 elements to any marijuana business. One is obviously the medical marijuana, and secondly, then you've got recreational marijuana. The algorithm devised a plan as how we could exploit these, where we could exploit them, where's the cheapest way to do it, where we could gain licenses without too many hurdles to jump over, and concentrated it on European market as opposed to the US market, which had been exploited at that stage anyway to a large degree. So we ended up with Buds presenting its first projected grow and harvest will take place in Q4 this year. It is an experimental projected one. In total, we're spending just under 600,000 on it. And that includes things that will never have to be spent on again, but that includes buying the land for everything. We'll never have to buy the land again. So we purchased 45,000 square meters in Andalusia in a place called Portales. And we have put together a team, right? These teams do not work directly for Budscore as it sits, right? We are going to recruit from this team for the full exploitation of the initial harvest and the rollout thereafter. But they put together a plan that we can exercise sometime in October, November this year, right? Which will be basically 10 polytunnels producing marijuana through hydroponic and aquaponic farming processes on a double root process. This will allow us to see how this works and how it can happen. We expect, because of the amount of work that's been done, right, we expect that there will be no hitches in this. Once those 10 tunnels have produced their first harvest, we intend in the first year to roll those 10 tunnels out to 40 tunnels, right, each in groups, and each of them cultivating 5 different strains of marijuana, all of which can be in the first instance used as medical marijuana before we move on to the recreational marijuana. We have the distribution means for the medical marijuana, and we have the license in situ for the medical marijuana. But for the recreational, it's a little bit more difficult down its way. With Vetcura is a holistic and organic pet product distribution agent. It sources the pet product in the Far East. It packages it as a luxury item, and then it distributes it in the first instances, the United States and UK, but also it will include Europe, with the ease at which we can distribute to begin with using the languages that we know, which is English. Right? They will do that. So basically we source the product it's a hamper, and the hamper has 12 bottles in it. And each bottle is a holistic and organic panacea for pets. That's all fully approved and fully licensed. Looks pretty, and it costs $150, including PP. The raw product is shipped to fulfillment houses in the west coast of America and into just above London. And from them, they will fulfill by packaging and distributing throughout the markets in the UK and London. Once we've established the first, say, 6 months of trading on this, this is also going to launch in Q4 with a hopefully that we can take advantage to a lesser extent of the Christmas market. But once we have these in place, we have already appointed a CEO person to it. They take up their position formally in September this year. So that's Vetcura. It's a very big market. Pet product market, the luxury pet product market is a very big market. We're coming in at about a mid-range cost with a fairly, it's a very, very niche product, and nobody else is offering this type of product at the moment. There are plans to expand outside the product line, but there is also a replacement product facility for the products that we're selling. So if you empty a bottle, you can buy a bottle online to replace it of the 12 bottles. With regard to ModusPay is an online payment solution, right, that basically is the same as any online payment solution. However, we were offered, prior to us actually acquiring ModusPay, we were offered a money license out of Canada that serves 44 jurisdictions. Well, technically it serves every jurisdiction, but it primarily operates in 44 jurisdictions. We had ModusPay already something that we were going to acquire. By having the offer of the money license as well, we thought we could marry them and use it as crossover reference in the initial stages to service businesses like Buds, businesses like Vetcura. We have 3 other projects that we are currently reaching a closure on development of. One is which is the Green Exchange, which is a solar panel clean energy generator that's agency to a main generator, a main energy generator, right? Like in Spain, it will be Endesa. So we have that, and that basically is, I'm currently being analysed and doing what you would call a KYC for the money license, because somebody has to do it, and you have to be cleared on it. So that's one of the things that's happening at the moment. The Green Exchange itself will also take up part of the lands that we've purchased for buds, and we will be initially laying 1 acre of solar panels close to a high power station for Endesa, and they will then in turn buy the electricity off us and allow us to agency it to various different companies, individuals, and participants throughout Europe. I can explain that a lot clearer because it really is. It's like a board. It's an energy board on the stock exchange where people can buy bits of the energy over periods of time and hold on to it, which benefits a number of businesses that require this type of service. We also have, practically speaking, closed a mining license in the Republic of Congo to mine cobalt. Right, and again, that's an agency business. While we would own the license, we would use third parties in all respects for what happens after that. So we're working basically on on a commission, but we own the primary source, which is the license. Cobalt, by the way, in case you didn't know, is used in every battery in the world. You cannot have a battery that doesn't have a constituent cobalt. So that's something else that we're doing at the moment. The last one is gaming management. Right, Barry's very, very influential and very well known in the gaming world. So we get a lot of approaches on gaming stuff. We like this one the best. It sort of marries gaming management and insurance and requires the services of an actuary. I have been speaking to the actuary that we want to use for 2 months now. We've been developing and designing ways in which we can use his services, after which, right, we can roll it out across the industry, including a management of funding and a management of maintenance of security of funding within the gaming industry, the online gaming industry. They're the projects.
Okay, great, Derek. Yeah, you give a good introduction to all the businesses. So let's go back to the buds business that's going to be created in Spain. You said so it's going to be starting as a medical uses, so like CBD oils, and will you be exporting them to all the countries where it's legal for medical reasons for marijuana?
Yes, basically the reason we've gone medical marijuana to begin with, then, one, the license was a lot easier to get. Two, it puts us at the highest level of growth on the strains, which means that we have to be absolutely precise on the growth to make it safe for medical marijuana. It's not like a lot of marijuana that you buy on the street. Nobody knows how it was grown, what's in it, what it constitutes. With medical marijuana, you have to be very precise. It's a science. And so we went with that for those two reasons. One is the license was easier to get. And secondly, right, it pushes us to the edge on making sure everything is absolutely perfect in the product when it's finished. With regard to distribution, we use secondary distributors. So basically, we're wholesaling it. We're selling it to distributors who are buying it off us at a wholesale price. When we did the projections, we spot corrected the wholesale price at $2.20. It's a little bit more in Europe than that, but we decided to use an American metric to do it. Our first production in Q4 will generate about $650,000 worth of income from the 10 tunnels for one harvest. Bear in mind that here in the south of Spain, with the facilities that we can have 4 harvests a year. If you multiply the tunnels by 4, which is what we'll be running in the first farm, 40 tunnels, by 4 again for the number of harvests we'll have per annum, it'll give you some indication of why we're in this business.
I see, Derek, and it's high profit margins as well, I imagine, in the marijuana medical business. Well, in the shops, it's about £20 for a little bottle of CBD oil. I think I don't know.
It's cheap at £20. That's cheap at £20. As I said, we're selling it at we're selling the marijuana not produced as CBD oil or anything like that. We're selling it as a raw product, right? But a medical medical marijuana has a stamped coverance on it. Right, so we're selling it at about $2.20. Well, we're projecting selling it at $2.20. We can't sell it because we haven't got it, but we're projecting selling it at $2.20 in December this year, January next year. $2.20 a gram.
Great, and the pet industry as well. That's probably a high profit margins for cats and dogs. What sort of beauty and health products are you going to be making for Cura?
Well, ironically, the cost of the product isn't huge, right? The cost of getting it licensed was relatively high because, again, you have to adhere to various different licenses, right? It had to be holistic, it had to be organic, and it had to be non-harmful to pets, and it also had to be needed by pets, right? They're all three different criteria that we had to go through the various different wearers and walls of that type of thing. The primary product that we're beginning with, right, is a hamper, right? So think of a standard wicker hamper. And on the top of that hamper is a brass plate with the pet's name on it. And inside the hamper are 12 bottles, some of which contain everything from stuff that's good for the pet's tooth to something that's good for its coat, something that's good for its digestion, etc., etc., etc. Right? All of which are holistic, all of which are either in tablet form or liquid form. All of which can be fed quite safely to either a cat or a dog. There are two hampers, actually. When I say one hamper is designed for cats, one hamper is designed for dogs. And while the hamper is the same, the actual bottles, what they contain in the cat's one is slightly different to what they contain in the dog's. So we're selling that at about $150 delivered. Right. The two main costs in that are actually not the product itself. The product itself is relatively cheap. The basket's pretty expensive. The post is very expensive. And the fulfillment commissions are quite expensive. But we felt that rather than get our hands dirty and do it ourselves, it was easier to commission it in the Far East, right, under the equations and scientific levels that needed to be done, obtain the licenses in each of the jurisdictions that we wanted to work in first, right? And then use a fulfillment house to take the raw product, put it together, and then distribute it out to the purchaser.
Okay, great, Derek. And the one you said you're most excited about, the cobalt mining, is that because there's a very high profit margin in that, and will that be exported to different countries? Is it used in electric cars as well?
It's used in everything. If you've got a battery, you can't have one without cobalt. Now, I'm going to be a little bit sketchy on the science because they keep telling me the science and I really don't get it, right? What I do get is the metrics of the business. So licenses are available. They're not cheap, right? However, the not cheap ones, the decent licenses, are based on very solid geological surveys. So we know a minimum what's in the ground when we take on the license. The license is traded through CERN in Switzerland. They're not traded through and we know what's going to be in the ground, backed up by very staunch reports and sometimes insured reports. So we know what's going to be in the ground minimum. We don't know the maximum, right? We're not going to be extracting it. We're going to agency the extraction to an on-the-ground extracting agent that's already there. And then once that's done, we're not going to be packaging and distributing it. We're agencying it to it. However, and then finally, when it reaches its destination for sale, we're wholesale agencying it through that as well. However, we're only able to do that because of what you pointed out, the high level of profit that's available to us in the extraction, right? And in owning the license and in even taking into consideration the three processes that we need in order to dispose of what's been extracted, allows us to make a significant profit based on turnover.
Okay, great, Derek. And going forward, what's going to happen over the first quarter? The marketing plans around the token, how are you going to get the name out there around crypto and and promote your real world businesses as well?
That's Barry share. Barry?
So in the lead up to pre-sale, because it's not a big that big hard cap we're going for, we've not gone too mad with the marketing campaigns. We just picked some of the better Telegram groups like yourselves, who was one of our first picks actually, But we've started the process with I think we've got 30 quite senior influencers across YouTube and Twitter that we've partnered with. Those videos have started to filter out now into the market, and that will continue over the next quarter to keep the Solalgo message completely on point and in people's faces. That's the most important thing. Plus, we've got a huge amount of information coming out in regards to, which is obviously very important for the tokens, health and profitability and forward-thinking growth, is all of this really nice information that Derek and his team are going to be providing for regarding all of the businesses. So when we first break ground in the Congo, we've started extracting that. We can start sharing that with the group and with our wider audience and token holders, etc. The same with the first hamper that goes out, the first bud that gets taken off the stem for buds, etc. All of this, plus all of the other businesses we've got, and subsequent businesses that we're looking at now. One actually, I can't talk about because we're under NDA, but there's a cryptocurrency business that we are looking at very closely, which will be quite an exciting acquisition for us going forward. But again, we can't talk about that right now, unfortunately. So over the next 3 to 6 months, we have a huge amount of information coming out. And I believe with all of the things we have planned in regards to press releases, partnerships with, the influence, etc., I believe you'll see a lot of Solalgo, not only now post pre-sale and in the next 6 months, and then we believe it'll be just a snowball effect where people will be just dying to hear more information about the token and what the businesses are doing.
While I don't have a lot to do with the marketing side of the business and indeed the crypto side of the business, I have a post-listing schedule whereby I will be doing presentations in London, in New York, and to a degree in Central Europe, right? In principally Hamburg, to be honest with you, and a little bit in Paris, right? Whereby I will be approaching broking houses to take a look at this seriously and take some sort of position in the coin for a period of time, a vested period of time, in order to accelerate the value of the coin and accelerate the purchase of the businesses and therefore accelerate the building of the conglomerate. So I will be doing, when we first did the first round of seed, raising money in the seed capital, we basically followed the schedule of speaking to people we know, but it did involve a pitch, it did involve a presentation, it did involve an explanation, and one of the great things about doing it that way was we learned. We learned that a lot of people in the traditional markets have no idea what crypto is. We learned that they were very skeptical despite the fact that they had no idea what crypto is. We also learned that they were incredibly cynical as to the growth of the crypto market over the next, say, 5 to 10 years. So we've learned how to deal with all of these questions now, on top of which we've learned how to consolidate the explanation of what Solalgo does, whereby they get the traditional side immediately, right? They don't get the crypto side so quickly. Right now, I know on Barry's side, he faces the exact opposite. Everybody gets the crypto side quickly, but can't understand the traditional side as easily. Because the traditional side comes with a lot of report and a lot of reporting. All of the companies that will be buy will be incorporated in the jurisdiction that most suits them from a taxation point of view, a logistics point of view, and a marketing point of view. They will all be incorporated. They will all be under a onus within those jurisdictions to report in the normal ways you would report. They also, in the first year, any business that we buy has to have a monthly report presented to Solalgo, the management of Solalgo, i.e. me, right? And that report is generated through to using ALG S101. We've actually developed the management report through that. It's a monthly management report that is partly filled in through operational procedures and partly filled in by the CEO. In the second year, they have to report quarterly, and in the third year, then we're working by negotiation with the company as to how they think it's best way forward with regard to taking the time for reporting.
Okay, great. Let's open up to community investor questions. We've got lots of hands up. Let's move to, let's see, Syed, you had a question for Derek or Barry. Solalgo, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn. Okay, I want to know that how you make sure that your algorithm is not biased when examining any business, and in what ways do you ensure the integrity of the data obtained by the algorithm is preserved?
Well, as you know yourself, when you're developing any tool, right, you're going to find out from the development of the tool that sometimes you've asked the wrong question for the tool to ask, right? And sometimes the tool reminds you of questions to ask. In the event when we were first developing Algo S111, we had a number of problems with it. Is that what I would put down 50 questions for it to explore and examine. It would return back with a further 500 questions that it had basically generated through me asking the first 50 questions. There was an awful lot of time and effort on basically the principal side. Forget the tech side, forget the code side, right? Because they were just reacting to instructions from us to begin with, until they started to then provide us with instructions of how to exactly do what you're talking about, provided the integrity for the tool, the integrity for the responses generated by the tool, right? And how we could cross-reference them against secondary searches, which allowed us to then cross-reference them against tertiary searches. So we were ending up getting the actual information that we wanted to get. Right? It's a very cynical process, and it's very fast. But I've had a lot of experience over the last 30, 40 years in the markets, whereby it happens all the time. Somebody comes in, they really want to get this project off the ground, so they are biased. The beauty of a piece of technology doesn't suffer that emotion. It just generates the answers that it's looking to do. So when we started off, I said 50, 60 questions to start with. Currently, this tool is asking literally thousands of questions, responding to them, composing them into a readable report, and then allowing us to generate further questions from the readable report in order to take it to the next stage. I'm not saying it's perfect, but God Almighty, I've never seen it like it. It just, I go into work, somebody's got a project, we're working the project, and the next thing I know, I've got stuff on my desk that would have taken me literally a month to get that type of information at that level, and in such an abridged form that it's easily readable and easily accessible.
Okay, understood. It makes sense. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you, Said.
We've had a question said. Let's move to the screen's jumping around. Aisha, let me just unmute you. You had a question, Aisha. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. So, in your white paper, it is stated that Cubex Investments Limited serves as the holding company for the Solalgo Group and its assets. I'm curious to know whether Solalgo Group retains independence in its decision-making process, or if it is influenced by Cubex. Additionally, how does Cubex contribute to the growth and promotion of the Solalgo Group?
It does nothing. It owns everything. Right. Cubex is basically set up as a corporate entity to ensure transparency for the seed round. It was also set up to be in a jurisdiction that allowed for the most advantageous tax rates, and also the most invasive, I'll use the word invasive, right? Invasive due diligence in order to ensure that everybody that's investing in us in the initial seed round, right, was satisfied as to the security of their funds. I have been raising money for 30 odd years, right? And there's no point in approaching somebody unless you've got your work done. So Cubex was set up for that reason and that purpose only. Solalgo was then set up to take on the management of all of Cubex's activities. So Cubex actually doesn't have activities other than to hold and own the assets of Solalgo.
Understood. Okay, another question. After Solalgo acquires a business and gains control over its operations, assets, and liabilities, does it retain the existing management team to continue running the business, or install its own management team to manage the acquired business?
Obviously, you're involved in mergers and acquisitions because your questions are very detailed and carefully presented. Of course, we would look at all of the management in any acquisition. Of course, we would. It's so much cheaper to take management with you at times than to try and recruit new management. The primary problem that always arises is, should we appoint a new CEO or CFO or COO? Right? That's the one that always arises. And that's the one where you need to develop expertise to be able to say, look, they already have a CEO, but this is the reason why their business is failing, because of the CEO. Right? Because ultimately, if a business isn't working and you're looking to sell it to me, right, you're either looking for a premium on a successful business, which I have no interest in buying, to be honest with you. Right? I have no interest in buying what is basically a successful business, because why are they selling it? We're interested in buying new projects, existing projects, projects with ideas that could become projects, and developing them using our own finance into something that can be profitable on Solalgo's behalf. So yes, businesses do come with people. And a lot of the time, people, one of the biggest expenses in any business, as you know yourself, right, is HR. The staff costs in most businesses are one of its biggest problems, right, from the point of view of reaching that level in order to exceed it and then start looking at profits. So it's a question always, when we go to acquire it, one of the jobs we will do is we will speak to the primary managers and the primary heads of department. And once we've spoken to them, my team will then ask me and say, look, we have a question mark against this person, this woman, this man, this woman, this man. Would you speak to them, Derek? And that's when I'll speak to them, and I will make a decision on whether they stay or not. So that is just down to my experience being able to make a decision on whether they stay or not. That's it. And obviously the factors that are involved, the cost, right? What they want out of the deal. Okay, because normally they want bonuses, normally they want performance-related bonuses, longevity-related bonuses, and things like that. That's pretty normal. They don't ever get to own any of the equity. None of it is available. The entire equity in all the businesses is wholly owned by Solalgo.
Got it. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There's a lovely question. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the question, Aisha. Let's go to, my screen stops jumping around. Western Beast, you had a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Okay, so I noticed on your white paper that the gap between leading banking institutions and crypto funding of commercial entities is experiencing a period of rapid evolution. Basically, we are all aware that the banks clearly and certainly see crypto as a threat, and in fact, it actually just wants to, as much as possible, benefit from it. Some banks are actually even regulating their policies so that they can be more crypto friendly. What would you say? Would you be comparing these banks to similar? The only difference, as you said when answering Aisha's question, do you think that these banks in their own way, will you be running a similar regulation when people bring these ideas? Would you be how do I explain it? When people bring these ideas, what is the requirements that they have to meet so that they can seem profitable in your eyes?
I get your question. Look, I've been working with the banking industry a long time. I'm fairly versed in how it works. I understand how money works. I understand how money moves. I understand how money makes money, and I understand how money loses money. With regards to cryptos, this is the beauty of crypto. Right? This is the beauty of blockchain technology. With regard to crypto, we can follow the money really easily, really, really easily, right? But so can you, and so can anybody else. So in order for us to take the practices of traditional banking, and I'm going to be honest with you, we will take some of the practices of traditional banking because they really work. They really work. They're beneficial to the business. They're beneficial to, in that case, the investors, in this case, the coin holders. So we will take a lot of what were traditional practices built up over the last 1,000 years. What we won't do, right, under any circumstances, is act as a private, closed shop. Because I don't agree with that anyway, and it's been the bugbear of my life over years with institutions, lending institutions, funds that are lending money, angel investors, banks, anything you like, that once they've lent you the money, they become your master. And I don't agree with that. I wholeheartedly disagree with it. So what we are setting up is a bank that allows us to fund properties, fund businesses, fund anything that has a tangible asset. by doing that through the sale of the Solalgo coin to gain fiat, because fiat's the instrument we're going to need to buy a lot of these things. Some will buy with Solalgo, but the vast majority in the early stages, until Solalgo has a figurative value that people will accept, we'll be using fiat to do it. And once we've bought it, right, once we've bought the company and funded it from the sale of Solalgo, the company has no debt. Right? It just simply doesn't have debt. It has budgeted working capital requirements. It has the funding paid for, and it has the initial development expenditure paid for, all from the Solalgo coin. So it's not carrying a burden of debt. So beautifully, it doesn't have to deal with the banks. Right? It can deal with them if it likes. If it's beneficial to the company, it can deal with them. It doesn't have to deal with lending institutions. It doesn't have to deal with banks. And it certainly doesn't have to deal with people who are what like to call themselves angel investors, who end up screwing the owner pretty much as much as anybody. Right? So the reality is you know where your money is because it's in Solalgo coin. You've got your check. You've got the technology to be able to track it. You know what Solalgo is doing because we're absolutely covered in all the traditional ways of reporting, every one of them. So you can look at us at any stage and say, okay, that's what they're doing. We're not in the game of taking anybody's money and buying a yacht in the Mediterranean. We're not doing that. This is a project that I believe, right, will change the landscape of how crypto is traded. We will use traditional values, traditional reporting methods, but we will use this magnificent concept that is going to be the standard for financial transactions in years to come. It really will be. We'll all be using blockchain technology for all financial transactions in years to come. So let's take advantage of it now.
Eric, I really appreciate your detailed answers to my questions, and I'm really honored to be a part of this AMA to listen to this presentation. I do have a few more questions relating to the banking system and the correlation with the government, but I'll be asking those in your Telegram group. Thank you very much for the answers. Thanks a lot, Barry. Thanks a lot, Glenn.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks for the question.
Great question. Yeah, great question. Well done. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the question, Weston. If we just limit it to one question each, because we've still got quite a few hands up, we'll get through as many as we can. We've got Venice next. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ken. Okay, I was wondering that are there any plans to divest or spin off any of your acquired businesses in the future? If yes, then what factors will be taken into account while making such decisions?
Glenn, could you just, I lost the end of that question because it faded in sound. Do you get it?
Let me just turn his volume up a minute. Do you want to repeat it, Venice? Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yeah, that's much better. That's much better. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I was saying that are there any plans to divest or spin off any of your acquired businesses in the future? If yes, then what factors will be taken into account while making such decisions?
Not sure I understand the question. With regard to divest, the business is planned over a 3-year plan. From the day it was started, it has been profiled to meet the requirements of being listed on a major stock exchange, either London or New York, which are two that I know intimately. At the point of reaching a 70% burn of the entire issue, leaving 30% in circulation, right, we will be making an offer to all coin holders that they can either accept cash at current market value, or they can accept a par swap of shares for their coin. So if the coin is trading at $10 and the shares are $2.50 each, the conglomerate is valued by an independent third party like Pricewaterhouse or Mazars or something like that. But if the coin is trading at $10 and the shares are valued at $2.50 each, they'll get 4 shares for their coin. And the company will be listed in a full listing on a full board in the markets. If that's what you meant by the question, but I'm not sure that is what you meant by the question.
Yeah, it answers my question. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
The question. Venice, let's move to. It's jumping around the screen there. Savage Dad, you had a question for the Solalgo team. Go ahead. Doesn't look like he's there. Let's have a look. Adam. Adam, you had a question for the Solalgo team. Go ahead.
Hello, Glenn.
Oh, it's starting to come through now. Wait a minute. I've got to find him again now. Just muted him. Adam. Go ahead, Adam. Are you there?
Hello, Glenn. How are you?
Good, good. You had a question? Go ahead.
Yes, I want to ask to what extent does Solalgo's algorithm trading platform incorporate principles of diversification and risk management? And how does it mitigate the potential risk of relying on a single algorithm trading strategy or market instrument?
Barry, did you hear that?
It was very quiet. It was basically they were saying about the Solalgo trading platform, which I didn't understand because they haven't really got a trading platform per se.
Okay, let's move on. Let's see, Naidi, you had a question. Go ahead.
Okay, my question is, with the 70% burn policy in place, how will the team ensure that the acquisition of new businesses doesn't dilute the value of Salgo token in circulation?
I don't see how it can. Could you tell me how it could? The businesses are run independently, right? The businesses report independently. They provide profits independently, either quarterly or annually. And with those profits, we, as Solalgo, as the manager and owner of the business, we use those profits to go independently into the markets at market price. We buy the tokens back and they're sent immediately to a burn wallet. That exercise is repeated until we've reached the 70% dilution of the initial issue. So with the initial issue being 1 billion tokens, we will be buying back 700 million tokens at various different prices over various different times. But that money that's being used to buy them, right, is from the generated profits of the businesses, which all operate independently under, right, the conglomerate management of Solalgo. Solalgo does not run the businesses. The CEO runs the businesses. The CEO reports to us. In the event that Solalgo has to get involved, it's because something is wrong, not because that we're there to second guess the operational management of any of the individual businesses. They have a process of which they report to us. There is no relationship with us other than we own them, and they have to report to us. And when they generate profits, right, those profits are used to buy back Solalgo coin in the market and burn it, right, at market rate. So if we were to buy them back tomorrow, they'd be 4 cents. In a year's time, we would buy them back to be $1.60 or whatever. We would be paying $1.60 and then burning.
Okay, and thank you for the detailed answer.
Thanks for the question, Naida. Let's move to DJ. You had a question, DJ. Go ahead.
I'm audible.
I can hear you.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify something. Like I just wanted to know, like how do you guys plan to like get the project to more users? I don't know if you get my question.
How do we plan to what?
Do you plan to get the projects to more users?
Oh, how do we plan to get the projects?
No. How do we plan to get the project to more users? Well, as we alluded to, DJ, in an answer previously, we have a very detailed marketing plan over the next 3 to 6 months across various different verticals and platforms, social medias, press releases. We have some brand ambassadors that we have are going to be working very closely with us in allowing us to get to a very wide audience. And the nice thing about Solalgo, as if you've been on hopefully you've listened to the whole, if you've been on since the start, you'll know that it goes across not only cryptocurrency but also traditional businesses as well. So it gives us a huge amount of potential touch points to be able to get the Solalgo message across to, crypto and non-crypto users, which gives us a very big audience to go after. So yeah, that's pretty much how we're going to make sure that the Solalgo sermon is told in as many places as it possibly can.
Solalgo, through its crypto, is designed to attract people who want to spend $30 on it, or people who want to spend $300 or $1 million on it. It's designed to attract those people. Right? For argument's sake, if somebody wants to invest $1 million in Solalgo tomorrow, well, the first thing they're going to do is either contact me or Barry, right? Because that's the type of size they are. But if somebody wants to invest $30 in it, and $30 is important, right? It's important that we get the $30 right as much as it is as we get the $1 million right. And the $30 expects that we will be transparent in what we're telling them. We'll be making promises that we can keep. We won't be rambling off into some sort of esoteric lunacy, right? Which is, which a lot of the crypto market is guilty of, right? Making and putting it together thoughts and phrases that, Webster himself wouldn't understand. We're not doing that. This is why we've introduced the element of the traditional business. So when you get a report, it'll say, Buds traded for the year 2 and it made $6.7 million in profit, of which it paid X number of dollars in tax, of which it paid X number of dollars in bonuses, the balance of which is going to be used to purchase Solalgo coins on the exchanges. It'll be as simple as that. There will be no difficulty in anybody reading it. And that applies to the $30 guy just as much as it applies to the $1 million girl. It really, really does. And that's the beauty of crypto. It allows us to do this. The stock market, not so much. The banks, not at all, right? But crypto allows us to do this. It allows us to work with the coin holders and make the coin holders very aware of what we're doing, when we're doing it, how we're going to do it, and what we'll get in return from it. And as I said, the $30 guy is just as important as the $1 million guy when it comes to information.
Okay. Thanks for answering my question. And going to my last question, which I think is kind of important to every project. I just want to know is there some kind of buy competition event going on in your Telegram community? I don't know if you get my question.
Barry?
Sorry, something about in our community, DJ. I didn't really hear you. Sorry.
I think it's white lists and things like that, competitions.
Okay, I mean is there any kind of big buy competition going on in your community?
Big buy competition. Sorry, what I don't.
What's Dre's?
Yeah.
Random sweep thing. I think that's going on.
We're doing a sweep.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, I think he's on about sometimes when it launches, they have like a highest buy, and then you get a competition reward type thing. Yeah, quite a few crypto projects do it.
That's outside my remit, man. I would know. Barry might know. I don't know.
Yeah, look, we've partnered up with the guys at Cookie, who are very versed in all of the tricks of the trade when it comes to creating a want and a need. So no doubt we'll be engaging with them to help us post pre-sale, if that's such a thing. Yeah, but we will for sure.
Okay, thanks for the question, DJ. Unfortunately,
Thanks.
It's been great speaking to Derek and Barry today from Solalgo. Real world businesses mixed with crypto and a token. We've had some very successful projects, so it's very popular with crypto investors. So it's great talking about the project today. As we say, WellCoin Talk is for education and research. It's not financial advice. We recommend you check out the Solalgo website white paper. And if anyone's got any more questions, you can join their official socials. We've got the links in our main chat, and there's a whitelist giveaway as well in our main chat if you want to check that out. And we've got 2 spins of the wheel, and we've got 2 question winners today. So I think Act is here with the wheel. I can see that.
Glenn, thank you very much.
I got the wheel up here, Glenn. I'll do 2 spins, and as usual, guys, we still have the chat locked. So all the information, everything you just heard us talk about, and more is just a click away. So do check it out. Do dive a little deeper, and I'm sure if you have questions, the team is more than happy to answer any and all of them. So let me get the second winner here. And we'll post the winners. We have your IDs, and we'll post the winners after we're done here in a few minutes, so you guys can claim your prizes. Okay. Yep. Got it. Thank you everyone for tuning in. This has been a great one. Fun listening in. And, yeah, do check it out. It's really something to keep your eyes on.
Thank you,
very
Glenn.
much.
Thanks, Axie. Appreciate your time, and appreciate all the listeners today. It's been an excellent AMA. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you very
Thanks
much,
very much.
everybody. God bless you all.
Derek and Barry, take care. I'll finish the record and send over a copy for you to share with your community. I'll send that into the main chat for our community investors. And yeah, looking forward to the future for the team and community.
You're a
Thank you very
gentleman
much.
and a good whiskey, Glenn. Cheers later. Talk to you later.